There was once a small village, hidden between green hills, where life moved slowly and dreams often faded before they could come true. In that quiet village lived a young man named Ethan. Ethan wasn't lazy. He wasn't afraid of hard work. In fact, he worked harder than almost everyone around him. Every morning, long before the sun painted the sky with its first golden light, Ethan would wake up. He would quietly put on his old, worn-out boots, pick up a heavy sack of grain, and begin the long walk to the town market. The journey took hours. His shoulders ached. His hands were covered with scars. But he never complained, because every coin he earned was for someone he loved. His mother, she had been sick for years. Every night, she smiled at her son, even though she knew he was sacrificing his youth just to keep food on their small wooden table. One evening, after another exhausting day, Ethan returned home. His clothes were dusty, his body was tired, his pockets almost empty. He looked at the few coins in his hand and quietly whispered, "Is this really all my life will ever be?" That night, he stepped outside. The village was silent. The stars filled the sky. And for the first time, he asked a question, not to anyone, but to the universe itself. Why do some people have everything, while others spend their entire lives chasing enough just to survive? A cold breeze passed through the trees. No answer came, only silence. Pause. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Nothing changed. Ethan worked harder, yet somehow, life became even more difficult. His mother's medicine became more expensive, food became scarce, and hope slowly began to disappear. One rainy evening, dark clouds covered the sky. Lightning flashed across the horizon. The streets were empty. Ethan was walking home, holding the last few coins he had earned that day. Suddenly, he noticed someone standing beneath an ancient oak tree. An old man, dressed completely in black. His face looked calm. His eyes seemed impossibly bright, almost as if they had seen hundreds of lifetimes. The old man smiled. "Long day?" Ethan stopped. "Every day is a long day." The stranger nodded slowly. "Yet, you're still poor." Those words hit Ethan harder than he expected. "How do you know that?" The old man smiled again. "Because I know people. And I know dreams. More importantly, I know what people are willing to trade for those dreams." A strange silence filled the air. Rain continued to fall, but somehow, the stranger's clothes remained completely dry. Ethan looked confused. "Who are you?" The old man ignored the question. Instead, he reached into his coat and slowly pulled out a beautiful golden pocket watch. It looked ancient. Its surface was covered with mysterious symbols. The hands of the watch moved differently, not like an ordinary clock, almost as if they were measuring something far more important than hours. The stranger carefully opened it. Tick, tick, tick. The sound echoed through the empty road. "Tell me, Ethan, if I could make you rich, would you accept?" Ethan laughed quietly. If becoming rich were that easy, everyone would already be rich. The old man smiled. "Not everyone is willing to pay the price." Ethan folded his arms. What price? The stranger looked directly into his eyes and said something that Ethan would never forget. Sell me your time. Silence. The rain stopped. Even the wind seemed to disappear. Ethan stared at him, confused. My time? What does that even mean? The old man gently closed the watch. Every human being has a limited number of years. Some waste them, some treasure them, and some choose to sell them. Ethan frowned. You're joking. No. For every year of your life that you give me, I will give you $1 million. Ethan couldn't believe what he had just heard. $1 million for a single year. It sounded impossible, ridiculous, completely insane. Yet, there was something about the old man's voice that made it impossible to walk away. The stranger slowly held out the golden watch. Look inside. Ethan hesitated. Then, he looked, and suddenly, his heartbeat stopped. Inside the watch. He wasn't looking at gears or numbers. He was looking at his own future. Ethan couldn't breathe. His eyes remained fixed on the impossible image inside the golden pocket watch. He wasn't looking at gears. He wasn't looking at numbers. He was looking at his own future. The strange watch showed moments, years, decades, as if time itself had become visible. He saw himself growing older. He saw gray hair, wrinkles, a peaceful smile. And finally, he saw the number. 80. 80 years. That was the life waiting for him. Ethan quickly looked up. How is this possible? The old man smiled, as if he had answered that question thousands of times before. Every life has already been measured. I simply have the ability to see it. Ethan's heart raced. You're saying I'll live until I'm 80? If, the stranger replied softly. You choose not to sell your time. Silence. Only the sound of the old watch filled the empty road. Tick. The stranger closed the watch. Then he calmly asked, how many years would you like to sell? Ethan looked down. His mind was filled with questions. If I sell 10 years, I'll still live until 70. 70 years is still a long life. He remembered his mother's illness, the empty kitchen, the unpaid bills, the dreams he had buried years ago. Maybe this is my only chance. The stranger reached into his coat and placed an old parchment on a nearby stone. Beside it appeared a black fountain pen. Sign your name, and your future will change forever. Ethan hesitated. His hands trembled. A voice inside his heart whispered, don't do it. But another voice, much louder, kept saying, think about your mother. Think about the money. Think about the life you've always wanted. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and signed. The moment the ink touched the paper, the wind became stronger. The trees shook violently. The golden watch ticked once. A bright light surrounded Ethan. For only a second, everything disappeared. Then, silence. The stranger smiled. Congratulations. You are now 10 years richer. Ethan frowned. 10 years richer? The old man corrected him. No. 10 years poorer. He handed Ethan a heavy black suitcase. Ethan slowly opened it. Inside were stacks and stacks of fresh $100 bills. More money than he had ever imagined. His hands began to shake. This can't be real. The stranger simply smiled. Spend it wisely, because time never offers refunds. Before Ethan could ask another question, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. For a brief second, the old man disappeared. When the light faded, the road was empty. Only the suitcase remained. Ethan stood there, frozen, wondering whether everything had been a dream until he touched the money. It was real. Every single dollar. Real. The entire village was shocked. Ethan paid every debt. He bought medicine for his mother. He repaired his old house within weeks. He opened his first business, then another and another. Everything he touched turned into success. Months passed. The poor man, who once walked barefoot to the market, now arrived in expensive cars. People who had ignored him suddenly smiled at him. Neighbors invited him to dinner. Businessmen wanted to shake his hand. Everyone wanted to know the secret of his success. His mother smiled more than she had in years. For the first time, she didn't worry about tomorrow. And seeing her happy made Ethan believe he had made the right decision. Maybe 10 years wasn't such a high price after all. Years continued to pass. His businesses expanded. His wealth multiplied. His name became known far beyond the village. People admired him. Newspapers praised him. Young entrepreneurs wanted to become the next Ethan. Luxury became normal. Huge mansions, elegant suits, private meetings, expensive watches, fine dining, everything he had once dreamed about was finally his, but slowly, without realizing it, something else was changing too. Something money could never explain. Months turned into years, and Ethan's life looked perfect from the outside. He owned luxurious homes, successful businesses, expensive cars, and everything he had once dreamed of. People admired him. Newspapers called him an inspiration. And wherever he went, he was treated like a man who had conquered life itself. But behind the smiles, behind the wealth, there was something Ethan couldn't explain. A strange emptiness had quietly begun to grow inside him. One quiet evening, while organizing an old storage room in his mansion, Ethan found something buried beneath a dusty wooden box. It was the same golden pocket watch, the mysterious watch the stranger had given him years ago. His hands trembled as he picked it up. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was exactly the same, slow, cold, unforgettable. He carefully opened the watch, and what he saw made his heart stop. The number had changed, no longer showed the long life he once had. His remaining years were far fewer than before. For the first time since becoming rich, fear entered his heart. He whispered, "This is real. I really sold my time." He tried to close the watch and forget everything, but the image refused to leave his mind. That night he couldn't sleep. No matter how much he tried to distract himself, the ticking of the watch echoed inside his head. Tick, tick, tick. Days passed, but the fear only grew stronger. Then another thought entered his mind. What if I sell just a few more years? His hands trembled as he picked it up. Tick, tick, tick. The sound was exactly the same. I already have money, but with a little more, I could build an even greater empire. Greed has a dangerous habit. It always whispers, just one more. On another cold, rainy evening, Ethan returned to the same lonely road where everything had begun. He didn't have to search. The stranger was already waiting, standing beneath the old oak tree, as calm as ever, as if he had known Ethan would come back. A faint smile appeared on the old man's face. I was expecting you. Ethan lowered his eyes. Only 5 years this time. The stranger looked at him for a long moment. Are you certain? Ethan hesitated, but only for a second. Yes. Without another word, the contract appeared once again. Ethan signed it. The golden watch ticked, once, then again. 5 more years disappeared forever. Another black suitcase appeared beside his feet, filled with more money than most people could earn in a lifetime. The stranger handed it to him. Enjoy your success, he said quietly. But remember, every deal becomes more expensive than the last. Before Ethan could speak, the stranger vanished into the darkness. At first, nothing seemed different. Business continued to grow. His bank accounts became larger. His fame spread across the country. But then, small changes began to appear. He woke up feeling unusually tired. Simple tasks became exhausting. His hair started turning gray much earlier than expected. Deep lines slowly appeared across his face. His hands no longer felt strong. His body felt older. Much older. Friends noticed the change. Employees whispered behind his back. Everyone wondered why such a healthy man was aging so quickly. Ethan visited the best doctors, one after another. They examined him carefully. Blood tests, heart scans, every possible report. Finally, one doctor looked at him with complete confusion. Mr. Ethan, according to every medical test, you're perfectly healthy. Ethan stared back in disbelief. Then why do I feel like my life is slipping away? The doctor had no answer. Because science could never explain. A man who had sold his time. From that day onward, every tick of a clock became a reminder. Every sunrise felt shorter. Every birthday felt heavier. For the first time in his life, Ethan understood a painful truth. Money could buy comfort. Money could buy luxury. Money could even buy respect. But there was one thing money could never buy back. Time. Years passed, and Ethan became one of the richest men in the country. His mansion was enormous, his businesses flourished, and people admired his success. But every evening, when the doors of his luxurious home closed, an unbearable silence surrounded him. His mother had passed away, his old friends had disappeared, and even his own family seemed more interested in his wealth than in his presence. His house was filled with priceless treasures, but completely empty of love, laughter, and peace. For the first time, Ethan realized that he had gained everything, except the life he truly wanted. One stormy night, a familiar ticking echoed through the mansion. Tick, tick, tick. Ethan turned around. Standing near the window was the mysterious stranger. He looked exactly the same. Not a single wrinkle, not a single gray hair, as though time had never touched him. The stranger smiled quietly. I've come to make you another offer. Ethan shook his head. I don't want more money. Then what do you want? Tears filled Ethan's eyes. I want my time back. The old man remained silent. Ethan fell to his knees. Take everything I own. My businesses, my houses, every dollar. Just give me my years back. The stranger slowly closed the golden pocket watch. Money can buy comfort, power, and luxury. But once time is gone, it belongs to eternity. No fortune can ever purchase it again. Those words shattered Ethan's heart. For the first time, he understood the true cost of every decision he had made. A few days later, before sunrise, Ethan climbed the highest hill overlooking his village. The air was calm, the sky slowly turned golden, and the first rays of sunlight touched his face. He wasn't thinking about money anymore. He remembered the evenings he never spent with his mother, the friendships he ignored, the simple moments he traded for success, and the years that could never return. A gentle smile appeared on his face. If only I had understood earlier, he whispered. He closed his eyes as the warm sunlight filled the horizon and quietly took his final breath. The golden pocket watch stopped ticking. Forever. Moral of the story. Money can always be earned again. Success can always be rebuilt. But time, once it is gone, never comes back. So spend your time with the people you love, chase dreams that truly matter, and never trade your life for things that cannot stay forever. Because in the end, time is the greatest wealth anyone will ever possess. The end.